Okay, we good now? Okay. Um, Welcome everybody to day 2 of the Canadian Intercollegiate Exhibition. Today we are starting with 3 amazing panels, and then we'll jump straight into our League of Legends round robin at about 2 p.m. Pacific time or 5 p.m. if you're in the East. So once again, my name is Jennifer, and I will be your host for this panel. So that formalities are out of the way. We have our Casting 101 panel, where we will be learning from a group of experienced commentators on the ins and outs of live esports casting. And we'll also get into how our guests got into casting, the skills and qualities required of being an informative yet entertaining broadcaster, as well as some tips and tricks for beginners as well as seasoned casters. So, without further ado, we will have our casters introduce themselves and um, tell them either the origin story of your username or what your favorite video game is.
Right. I guess I'll start then. Hi, my name is Adam Choles. I am a flex caster for both League of Legends and Valorant. I've had some experience doing all sorts of different games as well. I've done Rocket League a couple of times. I did COD. That was interesting. Basically, I've gotten experience in a lot of different games as well. In terms of favorite game, probably TFT. Honestly, TFT is really fun because it's League without actually playing League, which is really nice. As much as I love to cast League, as much as I loved to play, every League player says, oh, I hate League. It's everything for every game. Every Valorant player says, oh, I hate Valorant as well. How I got my IGN. I used to be known as Half Asian Dad back in the day when I started out. That's a classic name if you've ever heard one from my casts in the past. But after a while, I got feedback from Emery. She's I guess, the broadcast director for now NACL. She was like, "Yeah, that name's kind of like unprofessional." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I just sort of picked it out of the hat when I was picking names." So then I was just sort of looking through stuff, and I looked at the LPL, and there's a team called Atom, like the thing that's part of like cells and stuff. I was like, "Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna switch that. I'm gonna make that my name." So I stole the name from the LPL, and that's how I got my name.
I like that. I like that. That's all I'm gonna say. I enjoy that entire the origin story had so many ups and downs. I love it. Uh, so hello, my name is Daniel Orbital Lee. I am a caster. Been casting professionally, I would say, for about 3.5 years. My first actual cast was back in 2015, but again, I didn't really start getting really into it until about 2019, 2020. Started out with League of Legends for about 4 or 5 years, and then when I started doing it a bit more professionally, I started branching out. I'm currently considered a variety broadcaster. I've cast everything from League of Legends to Valorant to CS:GO. Um, I believe I have about 30 different titles under my belt right now, and it is extremely fun. So variety is the spice of life. In terms of how I got my username, I actually went by Hyperloop back up until about 2018, and I just fair warning, I was a little bit toxic in the past. I am reformed, very much reformed. But I lost my account that had Hyperloop, and I said, "Well, crap, I need a new name." So I went with Orbital. It is something from my past that it is a technical move I used to do when I was a street performer, and it was one of my favorite moves to perform for people, and it just kind of stuck. Although people think that I'm very into space, and I have never once looked at space. It is a weird thing, but my favorite game, that is a tough one as well. I love League of Legends with all my heart, even though the community can be rough at times. But League will always be my favorite, so I think I will just stick with the good old League of Legends.
League seems to be the theme. Feel like everybody starts with and then quickly leaves or just stays for life.
Yeah.
Gotta be one of the
One or the
two.
other. It's one or the other.
Okay, so how did each of you get into casting? I guess what drew you to do casting opposed to anything else, or I guess anything else in the esports sphere?
Hmm. For me, at least, I know that I started a little bit later than Orbital, so I was sort of afforded the opportunity through sort of what was happening at the time. You know, COVID happened in 2020 in March, and I had been working for a bank for the time being. You know, it wasn't necessarily the most fulfilling job in a lot of ways, and I had always sort of been told growing up, you know, being sort of a performer and everything. I used to play the violin for God knows how many years at that point, at a pretty high level. So I knew that I had like that performance style to what I wanted to do. And I said, hey, listen, I've been watching League since 2015. I've been, playing League that entire time. I know that there are leagues out there who want commentators to sort of provide that. So I was given an opportunity through one of my friends who had a team at the time. It was like a gold league team. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just try casting this. And I put it on my channel, started casting, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I think my first sort of push into more professional casting was with Opsy at the time. Rest in peace to them. I don't really know if they exist still or anything, but they were sort of the first opportunity I had to cast League, and it sort of afforded me opportunities to move over to Unified, move over to different opportunities. And then once September rolled around of last year, St. Clair, they said, hey, listen, you want to cast Valorant? I was like, okay, sure. Let me give it a try. And since then, Valorant has sort of been the second wind, I think, in a lot of ways. I've gotten a lot of really cool opportunities to cast with CVAL and be able to grow as a caster like that. And it's been amazing to meet the community around it, meet a lot of really cool people as well. And I think that's sort of what drew me in, was just the performance aspect of it, and the fact that I kind of suck at all the games that I play. I'm not gonna lie about that. Like it's one of those things where I'm like, I could not go pro in any of these. Like I can either enjoy it casually or I can do what I can to sort of further my passion for these. And I think casting was the main way to do so. And I think in that sense, it sort of led me into production, led me into observing a little bit as well whenever necessary to continue to be a part of it, because casting can be very cutthroat at times. I think that's probably a later question down the road that we can talk about, but it can be
Yeah.
a little bit competitive. But just being able to be a part of esports in any capacity has been a huge sort of buff to me. I think it helps my confidence. It helps me really enjoy what I do in my free time. And it's something that I think I'm going to be doing for a pretty long time.
I can agree with that, all those points, and I love the fact that you had the self-realization early about like your like the skill level stuff. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, because I got a very nasty reality check, which is why I'm actually in casting now. So I started playing League in 2013, and I enjoyed the crap out of it. It was very very fun at the time, of course. Um, but 2014 rolled around, and at that time, to give some understanding, I was gold. At that time, gold was considered like the baseline entry into competitive that you could do, even though like for pro teams, it's like, at that time it was diamond. But I was like, oh, I want to try and get a team together. This is when esports was kicking up. So 2014, 2015, college years roll around, I think is the best way to put it. And a couple people, and they were like, oh, yeah, we want to start up a team. And I was like, great, at my local university, let's go ahead, start up a team, let's play. And I got a team together, and the university was also hosting a tournament, and they wanted a team to be fielded from the school. And so I said, hey, I'm a guy that has gotten a university team together. Let's go ahead and be the team for the school. Great. We show up, we get rocked in two best of three series in a row, just like flat out, very, very quickly. A team that beat us was a local group of middle schoolers that just wrecked us. It was horrible. It was an experience I just said, not doing this. But after I got rocked in the first best of three series, it was a quick 2-0, and so there was a lot of time in between. Sad, I know. They basically said, hey, we just been broadcasting these games, and we don't have anyone to cast over these games. Would you be willing to actually sit down and talk about it while you have some free time before your next match? And I said, sure, I can do that. Grabbed a buddy of mine. We sat down and started casting. We cast about, I think it was 2 games at the time. I went back from a match, got quickly swept in under an hour in 2 games, and said, "Well, I got nothing else to do for 3 days," and ended up casting the rest of the tournament throughout the weekend. Um, and so that's kind of my story into it. And then again, as you said, it's a little bit cutthroat business in all casting. So I ended up branching out in 2019, but it's been a phenomenal journey, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Aw, that's so endearing. um,
Reality checks are harsh. That's all I'm saying. Don't if you can avoid it because I unfortunately it was on the matches that I did not cast, and that's even worse.
I
It was a brutal one.
I just even looking at Valorant now, like the high school scene can compete equally with our university or college scene. So we had a LAN in BC, I think in January or something like that, and we just watched like these high school kids walk in, and we're like, "Aren't you a little young? Why are you here?" And then it turned out SFU's team was the oldest team there, and we're like, "Wait a
Ooh,
minute, wait a minute, wait a
ooh.
minute." Oh no.
That's
But hey, I was like, the kids are they're great.
mhm.
I don't know what they're feeding them to make them that good, but hey, it's worth it. Okay. So, was there anyone on your casting journey that either you looked up to when you started, or I guess you still look up to now that you guys are both more experienced?
Ooh.
Hmm. I
Do you want to
think
go
for
first,
me,
Kieran?
yeah. I'm
Oh
thinking
yeah.
about this.
Oh
Actually,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I have a story about this. So I think initially when I started, when I first started out, I was mainly a play-by-play. By virtue of the fact that I was solo casting, I was basically picking up my friends' Gold League, Plat League games and putting them on my channel, and I was the only caster because I didn't have the connections. If I was gonna have a co-caster, it was gonna be one of my other friends, and we quickly learned with some of my other friends that they would just sort of sit there and be like, yeah, that's
Yep. Yeah.
happening. Yeah,
Ooh,
sort of the 10% of the soundboard, and just sort of sitting there doing that. So, by virtue of that, I was a play-by-play, and I think one of the major people that I looked up to for such a long time was Captain Flowers, and I think that can be said the same for a lot of play-by-plays out in the scene, where they see Captain Flowers, they see his energy, they see sort of his rap god style and everything, and they see the fact that he started out in, casting Iron Leagues, casting for $5 a game, and has been able to sort of make that climb up. So that was sort of a person that I really looked up to. And interesting story about that as well. Recently, I was in LA for CLOL finals and everything. After CLOL finals, we were just sort of hanging out at the bar. It was me and my usual co-caster Jobin, and sitting there, see Tanner Metro sitting there. Just start talking to all of these people. Get to meet a lot of the LCS casters, meet a lot of the higher level casters that live in LA. And all of a sudden, Captain Flowers just shows up to the bar, and we're like, wait a sec, what's going on? Like, it's sort of like that moment where like, oh my god, I'm meeting my celebrity, I'm meeting my idol and all that. It was really cool to be able to talk to him. Super nice guy, super awesome to just sort of hang out with him and everything. Interestingly enough, despite that, I think my idol has sort of changed a little bit I sort of changed my casting style to replicate a little bit more since I started doing a little bit more color casting, specifically on the league side of things, as well as doing Valorant. I think now I sort of look up more to sort of some of the plat chat members there who have this energy that you get that excitement from Valorant in a different way. You also get the more flex casting. Even your color casters have to hop on to play by play. Sometimes your play by play is going to have a little bit more analysis. I think that shows more in Valorant. So I'd say that listening to the VCT casters, listening to specifically the plat chat members has been a really big part of me sort of switching to being more of a Valorant caster and changing my casting style as well.
Yeah. There's there's a lot to there. Captain Flowers is definitely one as well. I'm gonna date myself a little bit here. I the first caster that I looked up to was actually Rivington. Rivington back in the year was someone that I absolutely loved and was a play-by-play back then. His style was a lot more. For those that don't know, because I know Riv, I think Riv's actually been doing a lot of Valorant as well recently. But back then he was one of the primary League of Legends casters for Riot, and I loved his flow. It was very gentle, it was very calm, but it got hype when it needed to. He didn't have to speak fast, but his quips, his moments were insane, and I loved it. Originally, I tried to follow him a lot. And then I ended up just talking very quickly and fell into the freak pattern of things. So, fell into the freak pattern, was very, very energetic. And ended up being a mesh. Nowadays, actually, it's a lot different. I love the fact that you pointed out Captain Flowers. I've been very fortunate in covering different games that it's also melded with the other side. So one of the people that I take a large inspiration from is Tanner Metro is one of them. He's actually the first person I ever cast Valorant with. When it first came out, I was on the desk with him, and it was so much fun to see him succeed now too. It was amazing. But from actually FGC, someone that I really really look up to is TK Breezy. A FGC commentator, I believe, does a lot of Super Smash Brothers and is phenomenal. But the energy of the FGC brings about a lot of how to create hype on a split second notice, as well as being able to create not just an analytical space, but to also bring in a lot of ground based knowledge, very basic commentary that can be enjoyed by everyone, not just veterans, but also the newcomers to the scene. Because as casters, we are always entertaining those at the highest level, as well as those that might have just turned on the channel by accident. So, learning from TK Breezy has been amazing as well.
It's really cool to, I guess, have to meet your idols first off, but also to have those examples and pull things from them to learn that. Um, so I know everyone kind of has their own process for preparing for broadcast, and we were talking a bit about this earlier. So Orba, I'm gonna put you on the spot first.
Oh,
Um,
uh oh.
just just because you were casting Overwatch yesterday, and you will be casting our finals, so I was
Mm.
wondering kind of what your pre-broadcast preparation is like, and I guess how it
Oh,
varies between games, because I mean, yes, both of you do various different
right.
games.
So that's a very interesting question posed, and I love that it's brought up because, as you said, everyone's very, very different. And especially with game to game, there's something to be said about um, having so many different knowledge banks. And in terms of preparation, there's to me two different steps. Number one is the what I call static information. This is base game information that is known, such as heroes, agents, or champions, their basic abilities, and all that. And then there's the dynamics, which is actually the team aspects. These are things that change on a dime to dime notice. So static stuff that never changes, damage ratios, meta currently, like what's strong, compositions, and everything. It's very static. It doesn't change anything. So that is brushing up on that. A fun story again. I have a Google Drive of about 25 different folders of a bunch of spreadsheets and templates that I have of just information. These are all champion abilities, agent abilities, what they do, how they coordinate with each other, and then Word docs of just like what's strong in the meta right now. What just got updated. What's strong. What should people be running into certain compositions, and that's actually what I use for learning. That I go over. I try to go over at least like once a week, maybe even once a day if I get the time. But dynamic is interviews, talking with teams. If I get the chance, we get to sit down, send some messages to some of the players via Discord, via Twitter, whatever we can get a hold of, and get information about them. But honestly, I would say that's about 40% of it. 60% of preparation is actually done during broadcast, as the stories are being built all the time. Preparation for a broadcast is true, but what happens in the game itself actually drives the story more. We can talk about what happened in preparation, hey, this player is really good, but if in game they are not playing well, they're getting slammed, that changes our preparation, that changes our information drive. So I would say it's 40% beforehand, learning static, learning dynamic, getting in touch with people, and then it continues throughout the entirety of the broadcast until the camera turns off.
Yeah, I can agree to the static information part of things as well, because especially when I was starting out with League, I think the first thing that strangely, the first thing that I focused on was just learning all the ability names. So there was like
Yes.
there's these Sporkle quizzes and everything, and I think the difference that you can hear between like some newer casters were like, yeah, the Jarvan E goes down, as opposed to knowing that's a Demacian standard. You want to make sure that you have some of this information, this extra little information that you have as sort of an extra to whatever the viewers can see. Because realistically, in a lot of ways, us as casters are just sort of viewers who know more, in a sense.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of weird to degrade us almost in that sense, but in a lot of ways, we started out as viewers. We started out as watching these broadcasts and saying, "Hey, I can do that," in a sense. And I think that's even where a lot of my prep will come in. I will watch pro games and I'll say, "Okay, what's going on in the pro meta? What's happening over here? Let me get some background information on how they're building it." And in a lot of ways, not only is it the game information that I get, but I also get information about how the broadcasts want to run. I get to hear about how the casters want to analyze things, how they want to transition between them, how they want to work on their flow. So in a lot of ways, not only is the prep for broadcasts knowing about the game and knowing what you're going to say and knowing about the teams, but also knowing about how to cast in a way. And I think it's an art that continues to grow as you progress. You can't really stop learning when it comes to casting. You can always do something different. Something that I've done in uh, some of the more fun gigs that I've done, where could be volunteer based or anything like that. I will go to a random word generator. I'll generate 10 words and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try and put these words in because I think it would be fun and entertaining to find a way to put the most random words in. And honestly, it has led to some of my craziest moments in some senses where I'm using words that you would never think of. Like, this guy really used that word in a cast, and it brings a little bit of a different entertainment feel to it. And I think
Mhm.
that can be where some of the prep comes from, not only being informative and being knowledgeable, but also having that entertainment factor.
Yeah, I think definitely finding that style is, or I guess even that personal style is what a lot of casters are looking towards, and it'll always be developed. But we do have a question from Diamond in chat.
Ooh.
And Diamond asks, how much does being good at a game affect casting? I know some games have pro players cast
Ooh.
sometimes. Curious though.
Oh, is it okay if I take this one, Adam, real quick?
Go for it. Go for it.
Because this is going to be very controversial, I think. Um, this is going to be very controversial because it will attribute to about 25% of your skill in casting. A lot of people assume it actually covers about 75 to 80% because it's like, oh, you know so much about the game, but it refers back to static information, in my opinion. There's a lot of information when you play the game, you know about it, but honestly, it's not everything about casting. Casting, a lot of people think, is just bringing information to the game or into the broadcast and how it works. But 75% of her job is being entertaining on air, and that is actually the most difficult part of the game. To give a little bit of an idea, like I said, me and Adam both have covered multiple games. You can know all the information in the world, but if you do not know how to articulate it and bring it in a fun and entertaining way, and not just that, create an environment that is inviting and enjoyable to the viewers, you're not going to be as good. I would say it covers the 25 to 30% at the beginning, which is a great baseline. I'm not saying it's bad, it's an amazing baseline to have. But there is some others that I personally deem more important that that you require after. But it is an amazing leg up. It is an amazing leg up in the casting world.
I would actually agree with that as well because I look at sort of the differences that you'll see when you get some of the former players to get on casts or whatever. Like I think back to all the LS streams and everything where he coached pro, he did all of that stuff. But the thing is, at the end of the day, he's still entertaining because he will
Mhm.
lose his mind over the most menial stuff. He'll say, "Oh, there's an Oblivion arm. I'm gonna lose my mind for 3 minutes," and that's what's entertaining. It might to some people, it's not their cup of tea, and I think another sort of misnomer about is that casters are meant to entertain everyone. It's not going to happen. There's always going
No.
to be like, a certain percentage who are just going to be molding and being like, you know what? No, these people don't know what they're talking about. But there are a group of people who will watch LS religiously and they will love what he does because they love watching him lose his mind over pro plays and they love the informative nature of it. Everyone has their different styles. And to a sense, when you think about someone like Bwippo, who's done casts on the stream, he's done really well because he knows how to articulate himself as well. And through interviews with him when he was still a player, you could hear that he was very knowledgeable about the game, but he also knew how to articulate it. And I think that provides a dichotomy towards. I'm trying to think about who I want to throw under the bus with this one. I think if you bring someone like Doublelift on, he's an amazing player. He has an amazing storied history, but you put him on a cast and he's gonna have a different style and how he's gonna do. He's probably gonna be flaming players half of the time. If you try and get him to provide information on things, he's not going to really look towards that static information that's there. He's just going to go towards storylines. So, this player's bad. I played him in solo queue. You know what? He's trash. I don't think he's actually going
Yeah.
to win the game. And in some ways, that might be less admirable to listen to or to do in a lot of ways. I find it interesting that Orbital brought up Freak earlier, where when Freak was in 2016, 2017, he was a different beast than I think what he
Mhm.
was at the end of his career before he switched over to the Balance team, where I think Freak was probably one of the best casters in 2016, 2017 because he was able to do that. It just felt as if over time he became a little bit more disillusioned with this scene, and it switched over a little bit more to being what most would say was just a little bit toxic at the end of it,
Mm.
where it was pointing out a lot more negativity as opposed to the positive parts of things. And I think that's what it comes down to as well. It's a lot of it is the entertainment factor, where you need to engage the audience as much as possible. Being knowledgeable is great, but there's only so much knowledge can take you if you sound like you're bored the entire time as well. So there is
Yeah.
a lot of different points to it.
I would also like to add, it also changes from scene to scene. I
Yes.
realized this midway through. Me and Adam are both talking from a League of Legends standpoint. This changes drastically if you get to the FGC or, like Hearthstone, the TCG games as well. So please do not take this, at face value. Every game is a little different because the reason for that is also how the information interacts with each other. If you're talking about TCG is pretty much all knowledge based. You look down the
Yes.
line, you look at it, you look at a game like Hearthstone. There is no deep analytics to it, or not. Sorry, there's no deep like super hype moments that like League does. Right? League has explosive moments. You talk about all those moments. It's very hype factor. But when you get to a TCG, when you get to Yu-Gi-Oh, when you get to even Legends of Runeterra right now, Hearthstone, and so many others, you're looking 5, 7, 10 steps ahead. The best way to look at it is chess. You are reading ahead, and that requires knowledge. That requires an in-depth understanding. So in those senses, I would still say, it's like 50 to 60%. If you are a former
Yes.
player, it will help you a lot. However, no matter which game and which genre you go to, it is not as large of a factor as I think some viewers assume it is, right? There is the entertainment factor, the ability to talk and understand and be able to interact with your co-hosts and your other casters is a much larger factor than some people give it benefit for.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be like that knowledge, entertainment, flexibility, balance, and you just gotta bundle that up and start building out your skill trees, I guess. Um, so I guess kind of on that back, what is kind of some of the differences you each notice casting between something like Val and League, or even Overwatch and Val?
Ooh.
I
Hmm.
guess which one do you like better?
No, no, oh, no,
No.
nope. I'm gonna walk away from that
Oh.
question. We are going to,
Yeah.
Adam. We're gonna lose some jobs here. I think we're gonna.
Yeah.
We like them all equally. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's the PR answer, just to
Ooh.
say, we like casting every game equally.
Mm.
In my eyes, I think this has just been because I've done more of it recently. I've really enjoyed casting Valorant a lot more because for League, I think the roles are very static.
Mm,
And when you have, a TriCast or something, you're going to always have one play-by-play and two color casters each and every time. If you're doing a two-man cast, it's always, a play-by-play and a color caster. That's every single time. It is set roles. Whereas in Valorant, I really like how adaptable you can be. As someone who used to be a play-by-play in League and switched over to color caster once, full disclosure, the job started running out for play-by-play because there were so many of them out there. I ended up going into Valorant. I was like, hey, listen, I can take play-by-play for this round. And if I just finished going off about something, I can hand it over to my co-caster and I can trust in them to say, hey, they can take the play-by-play reins as well. They can start to really push the tempo of it as well if things start to heat up. It really is about that adaptability. And that's why I've been enjoying Valorant a lot more. Also, probably because I've played a lot more Valorant. I've interacted with a lot more teams in Valorant. So I think just being in the Valorant sphere, sort of diving in head first and going into the deep end has made it more enjoyable for me for now. Granted, it could very well be different down the road as well. I think that everything has sort of switched over. For all I know, I could end up getting an Omega Strikers gig at some point. Was being like, hey, I'm gonna try this out. I've never played the game. I should probably play it at some point. But who knows? If I get one of those gigs and I say, hey, wow, this is really cool. I really enjoy this. That could be my new sort of favorite to cast in that way. So I enjoy all sorts of gigs, no matter what. I can say that wholeheartedly without sounding like a PR answer. I really do love working in esports, no matter what the title is. But being in Valorant has sort of, I think, transformed it, and it's given me a lot more opportunities as well. And I think I just have enjoyed that a lot more as well recently. That's just recently. We'll put it that way.
Adam, you are gonna get me in so much trouble because you basically taken the cap off of casting and just like, hey, no niceties here. We're giving away all the secrets now. I had a can on my desk that had all the secrets, so now I gotta let it out of the bag.
Yeah, pour it out.
I have covered 30 different games, you know, all across, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love every single one, and they bring so much joy. But I played like 3. And I've really I have to say it with all honesty. My Valorant people, I cast Valorant a lot. I've cast through a couple different leagues. I've had the opportunities, so many amazing opportunities. And for anyone tuning out there, this is your sign that you do not have to play the game 100 hours, 200 hours, 300 hours. It all depends on the quality of information intake that you have. My level in Valorant, a game that I've been covering for about a year and a half, you know, about 6 months after its release, I am still level like 2. On my main account, I am level 2. I do not play that game. I don't. I just don't. I Number one is I don't really have a whole lot of time. With the work and everything and studying, there's not so much time, but I don't play a whole lot of the games. Like, and some people are like, "Oh man, you can hear it," but there are others where it's like I'm very in tune with it, and that is because of what you said, Jennifer. The fact that there is such a different flow and different style to each game itself. There and for me, my most enjoyable right now, I would have to say, is Super Smash Brothers. Mainly for me, it's a game that I have played in the past, but it is very entertaining. It's very action packed and very quick. Um, Coming from League of Legends, Adam pointed out best. We have very static rules. This is something that came about because of how the game interacts. The game is in the past very slow. There were 50-minute games, 60-minute games, and also the setup to the game itself. It lends itself to very deep analytics, and you have to get this information out, and it just drew better that some people were better when it came to information. It came better that someone just knew the information, knew how to put it out there, and then someone else that was just very good at keeping eyes on the game. But when you look at Valorant, when you look at CS:GO, when you look at these other games, it's much more action packed and the action happens a lot quicker. There isn't really a build up. If you look at Valorant, two people could turn a corner in about a second and a half, and that moment is over. And that was a pivotal moment. You have to be able to pick that up on the fly. In League of Legends, it can be a 5 to 10 second build up, a 30-second fight, and about a 20-second cooldown period. It creates that wave ability, and so that is League of Legends. It's what happens with a lot of MOBAs. But I will say for Smash, it's even quicker, right? You got like 8 minutes, you got 4 stocks, action is happening, a combo can break off anywhere. So in terms of entertainment and one that I enjoy the most right now, just because of the hype and just because of how quickly something can turn on a dime, Super Smash Brothers, or I'd even say anything in the FGC. I've gotten the chance to cast Street Fighter 6 recently. I'm excited for Mortal Kombat 1 to come out. All these have amazing moments, the turnarounds, and it all gets compacted down into about 5 minutes. It's crazy.
Definitely. Um, we have actually Drive in the chat saying that Adam, you're also level 2 for Val.
Yeah, he's flaming. I've
Oh,
played way too much
Ah.
Valorant. He's flaming. You know what? Jackson's a hoss, and he knows it, and he's getting carried on. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh,
Adam, you and I, we just got explode. I'm sorry.
Yeah, listen, I'll say it straight up. I'm silver 3 in Valorant. Like, I'm not good at that
Yes.
game. I've
silver.
played with some of the players that I've casted and stuff, and they'll just be like, "Dude, where are you aiming, bro?" Like, I'm aiming for their stomachs and whatever. Someone, man, UCSD player said I had Hezbollah aim. I was aiming for Hezbollah's head if he's like 3 feet or whatever. That's
Oh my
sometimes my
god.
issue. So, you know, you know what? I enjoy the game. Uh, Less so with Jackson because he's a hoss, but that's a side tip. We'll deal with it in DMs later.
I got a good point. I played with someone named Time to Light, good buddy of mine, great caster as well. Someone in the industry. If you do not know who he is, he's phenomenal. I played Valorant with him once, and he goes, "You cast this game?" The entire time. We played for an hour and a half, and he goes, "How do you cast this?" And there may or may not be clips of me just absolutely shooting the sky. It was so bad. He laughed and laughed and laughed. I'm right there with you, Adam. You and I are both in the same boat.
Okay, we definitely got to get our mods to kind of go find those clips now.
Nope, please
We're
don't.
definitely gonna go see them. um, But I mean, hey, if anyone wants to watch Adam play, he is playing in our charity showcase match on, I think it
Hey.
is, oh gosh, the 30th. So
Yeah.
that will be the 30th at 4 p.m. PT, 7 Eastern. So we can watch the Silver Threes battle out, 'cause I think that is maybe the average rank of the people playing, but that's okay. We'll
It's
have
really
a fun
fun.
time. Um, okay, gosh, I lost my train of thought. Do. So I guess for some of the new casters who are kind of trying to get into the scene, trying to learn about it all, um, what are some of kind of the, I would say, essential skills that they can work on by themselves? And also, what are some of the maybe ones that they're only going to get from experience and how? Yeah, we'll go with essential skills first. We'll go with, I'll ask the second question later.
Hmm. I think in terms of essential skills, there is this is a super hot take as well. And
Oh
Orbital, you
yeah.
may disagree with me, but there is one essential skill that you need, and you need to just do it. In a lot of ways, it's putting yourself out there, having the confidence to just say, "I'm going to try casting." In a lot of ways, I would not be in this position if I didn't say, "I'm just going to try casting my friends' games." I like literally no prep. I was like, "Listen, I can try this. I know that I can speak well. I worked in customer service forever. I talk to people all day. I'm like, listen, I think that I can do this. I just went for it. I gave it a shot, and it's ended up working out into something that I, spend a significant amount of my free time doing. It's something that I enjoy wholeheartedly. Every single time I hop on a cast, no matter what the game is, in a lot of ways, I can have my favorites. I enjoy casting because I just it's so fun to do at the end of the day. And I think that is
Hmm.
really the first step that you can take for any new caster. If you think that you want to try it, give it a try. Just hop on your stream, hop into some of your friends' solo queue games. You can just go start casting that if you so
Yep.
desire. And there's opportunities for volunteer castings in some of these volunteer based leagues, lower based leagues, sort of puggy leagues at that. You can get a attempt at casting. You can really give it a shot, and I think that's the first step for anyone who wants to get into this scene in a lot of ways. uh, I'll do a little self plug as well. We've been running summer showdowns for Collegiate Valorant Hub. We're always looking for volunteers. If you want to give it a try, even if you just want to sit in and listen to what we do behind the scenes, I'd be super happy to let anyone do so, because it is just about getting your foot in the door. I'm always advocating for more people to be in esports, because I think that is something that can really tie everyone together. It can give you that passion. It can give you an opportunity to sort of show what you're made of and be a part of a community that enjoys the game as much as you do, and will be able to put that dedication forward to producing, to observing, to casting, to everything in that regard. And I think everyone deserves the opportunity. And yeah, there's my self plug. We're putting out a form on Monday for more volunteers for the second one. So yeah, let me know. You can just
Hey.
DM me on Discord as well. I'm always open to talking about casting. It's always it's just it should be for everyone, and I think everyone deserves that opportunity.
Hmm. I wouldn't disagree at all, and that I think is very, very true. The first step to get into it is taking that plunge. I personally, I have. It, it sounds weird because I sit here, 90% of my job is literally just talking to a screen, talk to people, whether it be 10, 15, 100, whatever. It is something that is really true, is you just have to do it. I have horrible social anxiety. I do not do well outside. Funnily enough, when I was in performance back in like high school and stuff, I was a techie. I told myself I'd never be on stage, I'd never be in front of an audience, and now here I am constantly at night talking for three or 4 hours. But the question, Jennifer, that you posed, and I think it's also very, very important. There are certain skills that people will look for. Different orgs look for different things. Different, possible tournaments look for different things. I will go ahead and say my own thing is information is one, but it's not the end all be all. The first step that you need to have when coming in is feeling comfortable talking. And this does not mean you like the sound of your own voice. You like to just talk, whatever. It's specifically talking to have a discussion with someone or to actually be interacting with someone. One of the things that frustrates me the most with casters that have been in this for, I would say, 2 to 3 years is they still talk like two different individuals on a broadcast instead of a duo trying to have a conversation about a game. And that can also be broken down a little bit further, which, I mean, I'd be happy if later on, I love this. It's fundamentals. I love it. I also love, Adam, that you also said that, yeah, more people in the space because it's fun. It's fun talking about these different styles as well. But one of the big things is the comfortability of talking about the game itself. There are so many jargon pieces that make the cast feel better. So for those that are just wanting to try it out, yes, step in, just go for it, have it out. If you want to turn this into a career, your very first step that you should learn is learn how to have an actual conversation with people and listen to them. Do not just listen to hear, but listen to understand and be able to speak back. There is a major difference if you go to any major broadcast and then compare it to maybe some newer people or some of the people that maybe just, are kind of getting there. There is that distinct difference when it comes to discussing, talking, versus just almost talking to a blank wall.
And I think just to hop in here quickly as well, it's something that we can even see in our own casts. I've casted with you, Orbital, a decent amount
Hmm.
as well. Half the time that we're there, we may not even be talking about the game. We can just
Yep.
have discussions about other things, and it's about if people just wanted the information in casting, they would hire one caster. They would say, okay, one person can do it all. They don't need to have a discussion with anything. They're just saying what's on the screen. But when you get two people there, you get three people there. I think the most exciting thing about Worlds Finals for these things, specifically for League, is a tricast because there's interaction between three people. It's like you're sitting in on a podcast at the same time. But once
Yep.
the action happens, they're like, okay, podcast's over. We're going to cover the action. We're going to talk about this, and then they get back to the podcast. It's the fact that the sum of the parts is what is it, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, or whatever it is. Like when you are with another caster, it feels as if there's an extra person there or something, or there's that extra little bit of information, and that can really be what provides backing to a lot of gigs as well. And that's the biggest thing. I guess if we're talking about like the fundamentals after a year, or after you sort of jumped into the water, you just want to make sure that you can have those conversations and you can enjoy the other caster's presence. You have to like your co-caster a lot of the times, and that's what's important. And yeah, just enjoy your time, enjoy time spending with another person, and then you too can enjoy the time that you spend with chat or with the viewers or with whatever, or with the players that are watching the VODs back and flaming you for your misinformation. Depends on what it is. Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually definitely seems to be the theme of esports and always our panels is first off, just do it. I guess
Hmm.
that's one of the pro sides of our pandemic is a lot of people got in the last couple of years because they're like, well, I'm gonna do it at home.
Yep.
Like, oh, my job's on pause. Like, okay, well, might as well pursue something kind of fun. And then it's a lot of, I guess, even for societal advice, is just hear people. Hear people, be thoughtful with your comments, and I think that's a really good message to send out. But okay, so our Mattiavelli asked from chat, and he's also our amazing producer for this panel, is asking what each of your go-to casting warm-ups are.
Casting words,
Warm-ups,
warm ups.
yeah.
Ooh.
All
Do you
right,
have one,
so
Adam, or should I go first? And
You can go first. I've got an interesting take on this too.
ooh, okay, okay. Yeah, there are many different ways to warm up. And if you're talking about warming up in a sense of how do you get ready for a broadcast, that I think still falls under preparation and everything, how do you prepare for a cast and all that. If you're talking about fundamentals though, like how do you warm up your voice or how do you get ready to like talk for 3 hours and stuff, there are many different ways. For me, I actually sing and rap in giant quotation marks. I have a playlist that I call my warm up songs, and these are songs that help me. I feel not only with speech and talking, but also with vocalization, how to articulate, how to breathe, how to hold certain phrases for long periods of time. And it ranges honestly. Like I think like Venom from Eminem on there. There's just like it's a
Yeah.
blanket number of songs, but I try and grab a variety. One of my favorites, I think, is Fairy Tale. I can actually double check it now because obviously I have my phone and all that stuff because I'm a gamer. That's all I do. Uh, it is Fairy Tale by Alexander Rybak. It was from I think it was I forgot what it's called, but it's a phenomenal song. But the vocals go up and down very, very well. It's a very nice range, so it warms up the vocal cords. So if that's what the question is, how do I warm up? How do I get my voice ready? Singing for me, and then also just talking a lot of the time, getting ready with a certain language, champions is specific to League of Legends, agents to Valorant, getting the jargon and being able to have it roll off the tongue properly is the other part of it.
I think my warm ups are they're a little bit more concise, and in a sense, it's more so literally just hopping into sound check and just talking with my co-caster.
Mm.
It sounds so simple, but just making sure that I'm talking with people, just sort of getting in the mood for it. I think a lot more of my warm up for a cast is the mental part of things. It's just about getting into the zone, making sure that I can execute on what I need to do for my job and continue from there. In some ways, I have noticed that I would prefer to do more warm ups in a sense, but a lot of times I'm hopping off my work and I'm hopping onto a cast within like half an hour, and I'm like, okay, I've
Yep.
literally talked to people for 8 hours. I'm warmed up. I'm ready to go in a lot of ways. So I think a lot more of it for me has become sort of a mental thing where I'm just getting into the zone. I'm making sure that I'm ready. I'm making sure that once I hop on there, once the break screen drops and you go there, hey, welcome to whatever tournament we're casting, I am ready and in the zone for whatever I'm going to cast, and I have the information necessary. That's once again falls into prep. That's sort of the static or variable information that may be available. It's just about hopping in and getting right to it, and getting in that mindset in a lot of times as well. So I think while it's amazing to have voice warm-ups, I get my voice warm-up at work. So I just
Yeah.
I just go in and I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's get into the action and let's cast some games.
Yeah. I will say before we leave, please always have a cooldown routine. If you're casting and you do longer than
Yes,
about an hour
that's
and a half,
important.
have a cooldown routine. Hot tea, saltwater gargle, anything. Please have a cooldown routine. Your voice will go gone. Please.
Yes, that is I think more important than a warm up
Yeah,
routine in a
it's
lot of
definitely
ways.
more than warming
Yes.
up. Oh my god.
Yeah, I can imagine. If you just talk continuously for like an hour, you're like, yeah, no.
So bad. Oh, and drink
Uh,
water, I guess, is the other one. I
Drinking
guess I
lots of
guess
water.
like you and I, we have to say that. Like we're obligated to say that the entire time.
Yeah.
Drink water, drink water, drink water.
Drink water, gamers. Let's go. Come on. Stay
there's a
hydrated.
reason Twitch put the hydrate button in.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fair.
All right, so we have a actually form submission question. Um,
Hey.
so this person says, I'm a new caster, and I was wondering if you ever get nervous, and if you do, how do you get rid of that nervousness?
I'll start this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, as a caster, I get nervous all the time. I think it is part of the job to be nervous because you go into these gigs, and the bigger the gig, the more nerves you get. You will get nervous no matter what. And I think the defining factor of a lot of the procasters, the semi-pro casters and all that, is the fact that once they get on broadcast, you just can't tell. It's
Mhm.
just about sort of taking it by the horns and just going for it in a lot of ways. And that's the tip that we give to new casters. It's a tip we can give to experienced casters as well, where you just need to go for it. You need to make sure that you're confident going into these situations and acknowledging full well that, hey, your co-caster is probably just as nervous as you. You're working a big gig. There's going to be lots of eyes on you. This can be something that you're sending out to other talent agencies for years down the line, as well as sort of a defining factor of your casting. In a lot of ways, you just have to sort of aim for the head and just go for it and say, hey,
Yeah.
listen, I am here. They picked me to do this. I'm just going to do what I can. I'm going to do what I was sent here to do. And I think that is the major thing to keep in mind, is that you will always have a little bit of those nerves there. It's sort of about reining those in and turning that into excitement, sort of switching how the nerves get felt. You have the same amount of energy and you just switch it from nervous energy into exciting energy. And that's sort of the major thing. And I think one of the biggest things for me was casting CVAL finals. Being able to cast on those broadcasts for EFUs and top eight, you're getting selected as some of the best, talent available. And for me, I was like, I literally started casting Valorant a year ago. How am I in this situation? That immediately just turns into, hey, listen, they picked me for a reason. My co-caster and I were just sitting there like, okay, listen, we're nervous, but we're more excited than we are nervous. Let's just take all that nervous energy. Let's go for it. Let's have a great cast. We had an amazing time doing that, and that's what it's all about. It's just about enjoying the time with your co-caster, knowing full well they're probably just as nervous if you're in those situations. Saying, hey, listen, let's do a great job. Let's have a great cast. Hey, and that's sometimes all you need to do. You just have to have that confidence that you're going to do well.
Mhm. And to actually go off of that, I would say be confident while being wrong. Know that things will go wrong and some things happen. Never take anything to heart. And the reason I say that is because I feel like that's the underlying fear that everyone has is I'm scared of being wrong. I'm scared of looking bad. I'm scared of having those issues. And I can say for a very strong factor, 50% of the time, people will not know. 60% of the time, if you act like that's what you meant. And then, even then, if you have to backtrack, don't be afraid to say, yeah, I was wrong. Just, yeah, oh, yeah, I was wrong about this. One of my favorite moments, my good friend and amazing buddy, Random Minion Caster, is
RMC.
a
Woo!
ridiculously amazing caster, by the way. If you want to know, some of you are like, oh man, how would I do analytics, talking about, information. That dude's ridiculous. That dude, fair assumption when you're talking about prep. I was like, for League, I don't prep when I cast with RMC. The dude brings
Yeah,
everything.
RMC does
He's
the
so
prep
good.
for you. He's the
so
best
good.
prepping caster I've ever worked with.
Yeah. Aside from that point, though, he and I had a very funny moment. We were talking about League of Legends, and he said, I'm sure you could do well with like one or more mythics. And in League of Legends, you can only have one mythic at a time. And he said it very confidently. And I sat there for 2 seconds and said, yeah, I wonder what two mythics you can have. You mean legendaries, right? And he goes, oh, yeah. Legendaries. I'm so sorry about that. And it was just a moment when it sounded natural and funny. When you are confident, no matter if you're wrong or right, you act confident, you fake it. You absolutely fake it, because I for sure know I've had those moments behind the camera. My face is red, it is blushing, but you act like it was meant to. The best way to get over anxiety or nervousness in a broadcast, everyone has it. Understand, everyone has it. Love the game as well. Enjoy the game, and as long as you feel yourself kind of sinking into the game, no matter if you make mistakes or you have a great moment, it just keeps you in that style. You almost forget sometimes that you're on a broadcast, but it is very important that you drop in. Like Adam said, just do it, feel confident, and know that you are there as well.
Okay, so we are almost at the top of the hour, so our panel is closing soon. But I kind of want to end with what are some of the really most or one of just some memorable moments that you each have had on your relatively, actually not that long, esports journey.
Oh, we got to go through the memory banks. Shoot.
Oh yeah. I mean, one I can say right off the top was literally getting consent from St. Clair to swear on broadcast when we beat Northwood. That was great. I got a lot of feedback after that. I got a message right after from the broadcaster. She's like, "No, I'm not mad about the F bomb," and I'm like, "Okay, oh, cool." It sort of ties into a sort of embarrassing thing. I actually dropped two of them in that one. It's just the first one you couldn't
Oh,
hear. Like I literally,
nice.
I was watching back the bottom like, oh, I said that there. I was like, oh, I wasn't supposed to say that one. The last one was sort of planned, but the first one that happened, I was like, oops, that's not supposed to happen. I think in terms of just memorable moments, though, uh, just being able to cover CVAL this year from the West with Face It, that was really memorable. I think of all of those, the fact that in that final weekend in the winter, Demigods versus UCR reverse sweeps Demigods in the winners finals on the first weekend. The very next weekend, Demigods goes down 2-0 and they reverse sweep back on split. Final round, super clutch moment from T Salad. Love my Demigods. They're the goats of the West. Love SFU as well, but Demigods, they're my actual goats there. It's so rare to see a reverse sweep in Valorant in a best of five. It is even more rare to get two of them in back-to-back weeks. And I think we did a rough estimation, Jobin and I. We said it is quite literally one in multiple million chance that you would get a reverse sweep with one team beating the other. They go back through, they replay each other the next week, and it reverse sweeps the opposite way. It is such a mind-boggling, impossible stat that I don't think that's ever going to happen again. If it does, so be it. But it is ridiculously unlikely for that to happen. And oh my god, we were losing it. That's one of those moments where you are so nervous for the teams. You are nervous when you're going into map 5, and you're like, you know what, this is about to be a good map. We're just gonna go for it.
Yep. Those are the times when like it's gonna be known forever, for sure. I would say I don't really have a top memorable moment. There's been so many across the broadcast that I've done. I will say one of my most embarrassing though is there are for those that wonder about getting nervous and how to get over it. This is how. Uh, there are what we call technical fires when it comes to productions. There are certain situations that occur that you can't plan for, whether it be like a screen doesn't change or anything like that and all that. My most embarrassing though was I was at a LAN. This was back in I think 2018, 2019. It was at a university and we were hosting their inaugural tournament. And I was stuck in a back room, the production wasn't all, glitzy like it is now. I was basically stuck in a cupboard. And we were running production and I was on the broadcast and I was talking and it went to break to get ready for game. And there's a lovely thing called a mute button that needs to be pressed for casters in between when we're talking about League of Legends, talking about certain things, and then when we go to break, when we're not supposed to be heard before we get into game. And the producer forgot to hit the button. And we were talking about the chances of what was going on, and we were talking about how to bring things into reality. For reference, the team that was going up against another, it was a team that was a makeshift ragtag group that they actually had their coach stand in for, and they were about silver or bronze level. It was about 5 players of silver and bronze. The team that they were playing against was a member of all diamonds and challengers that were coming here specifically to compete for the tournament prize. It it is not easy. And me and my co-caster, we were just trying to talk about the chances. We have to be realistic, but also in a fun way. However, we were unmuted, and it broadcast throughout the entire school PA system uh, for about 30 seconds before anyone came to talk to us. We didn't say anything crazy bad. It wasn't terrible, but it was definitely, a little bit more heavy-handed than what we had put on air. And so it was it was for 30 seconds just it was rough. Um so maybe not an exact on-air moment, but definitely my most embarrassing as a caster.
At least it was only 30 seconds and not.
Oh yeah, it was oh man. After that your face you're glad that you went directly into game and so they can't see how red your face is. That was really it.
Okay. Okay, I guess with that we are out of time today. So I would like to thank both Orbital and Adam for being here, speaking with us for the last hour on the Casting 101 panel. So please definitely check out their Twitter, support them, and if you're ever looking for casters, they're here. They do some really great stuff, and you'll hear both of them throughout the week. Actually, it will be on our next panel. Um, but we will take a short break and come back in about a half hour, or technically like 25 minutes. So at 11:30 Pacific or 2:30 Eastern for our esports media panel.